Hello there. I'm going to teach you a lot about history over the next many weeks. Just consider me Professor Banks. Because for me, history is a very passionate subject. And I have taken many history courses in my time, and some people find history just boring, like they can't get into it. But I find tracing back many years and going back many years in our timeline a very fascinating subject, very fascinating. So I'm going to take you on a little ride through history, per se. And it's going to be going over many weeks because there is a lot of history. So this is Fun with History with Professor Banks. And I am your professor. So what I have got here, I have traced a timeline, and the timeline goes back to 5500 BC. So we're talking about going back a long time. And a lot of this history that I'm going to present to you is history of Western civilization. So this is history that's really important for us because we are in Western civilization. And I think, why should we study history? Well, maybe you ask that question, and I will tell you that history has an impact on everything. It's part of how we've been upbringed. It creates our heritage. And, if it wasn't for, and usually one period of history leads into another. So if it wasn't something significant about that history period, then that particular history period would have a significance on the next history period because of something those people did. So what I'm going to do today is I'm actually going to tell you kind of like basic outline here. So we're going to go through some big empires through the time. And Greece had a pretty big empire back in the very early years, in the BC years. And they were significant for many things. Rome rose up to be a very powerful empire as well. And then you look at how religion comes into play. And you look at basically things that happen over our time period. And it starts way back in Egypt times, actually. Egypt is one of the oldest known societies around. So we're going to kind of go through that over the next few weeks, and we're eventually going to get up to our time period, the exciting year of 2016. So, but for now, I want to actually, considering we're talking about history, I want to share with you an icebreaker joke, and I'm going to try to have a joke at the beginning of each of my history lessons. And so I thought this was a pretty funny joke since we're dealing with history. So I'm going to read it to you. So some tourists in the Chicago Museum of Natural History. I don't know how many people here have ever been to the Natural Museum of History, but I've never been. Someday I would like to go to one, whether it be in Chicago or New York. But anyway, some tourists in the Chicago Museum of Natural History are marveling at the dinosaur bones. Dinosaurs go way back. One of them asked the guard, "Can you tell me how old these dinosaur bones are?" The guard replies, "They are 3,000,004 years and 6 months old." Wow. So the tourist says, "Wow, that's an awfully exact number. How do you know their age so precisely?" The guard answers, "Well, that's easy. The dinosaur bones are 3 million years old when I started working here, and that was 4.5 years ago." Ha 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 ha. Get it? Ha ha. Pretty funny. So that's your little icebreaker for this lesson. Now, what I'm going to talk about today is I want to share with you I want to go back to when this whole planet, this whole Earth began. So, go to my whiteboard here. So we're talking about how this thing we live on, this planet, Earth, Earth, how it started. Now, there's different varied opinions from different people on how the word came to be. And I'm going to share with you what I truly believe. And I know not all of you will believe that, but I believe that. And that's where we're going to start out with our history lessons. And then we're going to go through history, and hopefully you'll find it fun and fascinating. So, historians have put an age on Earth, and as many historians that have studied Earth, gone through fossils, and really studied it in depth, have determined that Earth is about 4.6 billion years old. 4.6 billion years old. So it's a very old Earth. And that kind of fascinated me, actually, 4.6 billion years. I had no idea that Earth has been around that many years. But that's what they have discovered. Now, obviously, many of you may be familiar with people's views on how the Earth started. Some people believe that we came to be as a form of evolution. And then there's some people with the view that I'm going to share that believes this world was created and made by a higher being. And it's presented in the Bible. So I'm going to share that story with you here on this lesson. And as I said, there's different views on how it came to be, but I'm going to share with you, and this is from the Bible, the very first book of the Bible. All you have to do is open it up, and it's right there. Genesis. Chapter 1. Genesis chapter 1 is where this story is from. So, here we go. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now, at the time that God created the heavens and the earth was formless, empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. So, you wonder why there's so much water in the earth. It says, very first verse of this story, it talks about water. So, I find that fascinating how much Earth is covered with water. There's more water than actual land when you look at all the oceans, but that's why. So let me continue. Verse 3 of Genesis 1. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. God saw that the light was good, and he separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, and then there was the first day. And then God said, "Let there be a expanse between the waters to separate water from water." So God made the expanse and separated the water under the expanse from the water above it. And it was so. God called the expanse sky. And then there was evening, and then there was morning, the second day. And God said, "Let the water under the sky be gathered to one place, and let dry ground appear." And it was so. And God called the dry ground, land. And the gathered waters he called seas. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, "Let the land produce vegetation, seed-bearing plants and trees on the land that bear fruit with seed in it, according to their various kinds." And it was so. The land produced vegetation, plants bearing seed according to their kinds, and trees bearing fruit with seed in it according to their kinds. And God saw that it was good. And then there was evening, and then there was morning, the third day. So you can see a theme here. Each day something is done. I mean, land, water, vegetation. And at the end of every day, it says God saw it was good. So these are all good things that were created that we still have today, the seas, the land, and so forth. Let me carry on. And God said, "Let there be lights in the expanse of the sky to separate the day from the night, and let them serve as signs to mark seasons and days and years. And let them be lights in the expanse of the sky to give light on the earth." And it was so. God made two great lights, the greater light to govern the day, and the lesser light to govern the night. He also made the stars. God set them in the expanse of the sky to give light on the earth, to govern the day and the night, and to separate light from darkness. And God saw that it was good. And there was evening and there was morning, the fourth day. And God said, "Let the water teem with living creatures." So now we got creatures and live things coming into the picture. "And let birds fly above the earth across the expanse of the sky." So God created the great creatures of the sea and every living and moving thing with which the water teems, according to their kinds, and every winged bird according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. God blessed them and said, "Be fruitful and increase in number and fill the water in the seas and let the birds increase on the earth." And there was evening and there was morning, the fifth day. And God said, "Let the land produce living creatures according to their kinds, livestock, creatures that move along the ground, and wild animals, each according to its kind." And it was so. God made the wild animals according to their kinds, the livestock according to their kinds, and all the creatures that move along the ground according to their kinds. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, "Let us make man in our image, and our likeness, and let them rule over the fish of the sea, the birds of the air, the livestock, over all the earth, and over all the creatures that move along the ground." So God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created them. Male and female he created them. God blessed them and said to them, "Be fruitful and increase in number. Fill the earth and subdue it. Rule over the fish of the sea and the birds of the air and over every living creature that moves on the ground." Then God said, "I give you every seed-bearing plant on the face of the whole earth, and every tree that has fruit with seed in it. They will be yours for food. And to all the beasts of the earth, and all the birds of the air, and all the creatures that move on the ground, everything that has the breath of life in it, I give every green plant for food." And it was so. God saw all that he had made, and it was very good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the sixth day. Thus the heavens and the earth were completed in all their vast array. By the seventh day God had finished the work he had been doing. So on the seventh day he rested from all his work. And God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because on it he rested from all the work of creating that he had done. So that is, in essence, the story of creation. the story of creation, Genesis chapter 1 in the Bible. Now, I'm not going to judge people who believe other things. Everybody's entitled to believe their own thing. But for me, that story makes the most sense. To me, when you look at how intricate this universe was made, how the stars are in the sky at night, how big this planet is, and that's not even really touching the size of the universe. To me, I don't see any other way to explain that than a higher being that had the power and the ability to create all that. So, in essence, that's really how history all began. That's the beginning of history. That's how, that's basically Earth and our planet coming into existence. So, that is a start to our history lessons. Now, next week what I want to do is, next week I'm going to talk a bit about the ice ages. And yes, I said ice ages with an S. Because, a lot of people think that we've had only one ice age in our time, but in essence, there has been 5 major ice ages. And most of them were in play before humans' first real form of human civilization came into play. So I'm going to explain those a bit to you next week, and then we will carry on from there. So I hope you enjoy Fun with History with Professor Banks, and I look forward to more lessons to share with you and to explain kind of how we've evolved and how things have evolved through history in terms of us living in the Western civilization. So, until next time, take care, and we'll talk history next week. Ice Ages is our topic.